Good morning and welcome to Collider Dailies. I'm John Aljets and I am joined once again by...
Maggie Lovitt.
Today we are talking about Patrick Stewart wanting to do another Star Trek movie. We're going to talk about our thoughts on Loki Season 2, Episode 1. But first, we have to talk about the live-action Cyberpunk project that is apparently in the works from anonymous content, the people behind The Revenant, True Detective, and a whole bunch of other stuff. I say live action project because at this point we don't actually know if it's going to be a movie or a TV show or anything like that. Maggie, what are your thoughts on this?
I never played the game, but I did watch a lot of playthroughs of it, and I do think it has a lot of potential for, as you said, either a movie or, a TV series. I think a TV series could almost work better just because it gives them more time to delve into aspects of the game, focus more on some character details, things like that. We've seen, more recently a lot of game adaptations kind of coming to fruition with, fairly decent, success rates.
I definitely feel like, because for a long time there, video game adaptations were like immediately the mark of like, oh, this is going to be terrible.
Yep.
But I think it was like, I think like Detective Pikachu might be arguably like the first, in my opinion, like really, really good video game adaptation. Listen, I enjoy 1990, 1993, 1994 or 5, something like that, Mortal Kombat, but it's not good. Uh, but now we're kind of seeing more and more of the video game adaptations are kind of, they're on the more quality side of things.
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely do think that this could be pretty good, especially if they bring in either Keanu Reeves or Idris Elba, who both had stuff to do with the games. No word if they're going to have anything to do with this. If it's going to, we don't even know really at this point if whatever this project is going to be a straight adaptation of the game, or if it's going to be just set in the world like Edge Runners was. We don't know if it's going
Mm-hmm.
to be connected to Edge Runners. Uh, really, all we know is that it's coming, and I think that it could be really good. It's just Night City and the world around that is so vibrant and so interesting. I would love to definitely see more from that world.
I agree.
So I am pretty excited to see it. Uh, if like Keanu Reeves were to be a part of it, Maggie, would you like to see him in like roughly the same role where he's kind of just like a voice in someone's head, or would you like to maybe see his character's story?
I would like to see his story simply because I feel like anything Keanu's and is going to be good, or at least fun. And I think that character has room to play with, and that's kind of where I keep going back to TV format because there's so much more space to play with things and expand upon the characters that people already know, already like, and have room to breathe.
Has Reeves ever starred in a show?
He was supposed to be in the Devil in the White City adaptation, and then that fell apart at
Mm.
Hulu, and that was supposed to be, I believe, his first television project. So I guess we'll have to see.
Hmm. Well, that could be pretty good. Speaking of television project, that's actually a terrible segue because it's going to be talking about a movie here. But let's move on to talking about Patrick Stewart wanting to do another Star Trek movie, at least
Yes.
according to his recent memoirs, making it so, which I want to read. I just have to
Me
find
too.
time
Me too.
to read it. I'm a big Patrick Stewart
You're just
fan.
gonna have to make it so.
Right? I've been a fan of Patrick Stewart ever since watching Next Gen as a kid. Like I grew up watching Next Gen. Next Gen is my series. Captain Jean-Luc Picard is the best Star Trek captain. Fight me. I know that there's a lot of debates online about who's best, and it's Picard. But he says in the book that he would like to do a Picard film.
Hmm.
And he actually has Jonathan Frakes, Brent Spiner, and LeVar Burton have all told him that they would be game for it. But my one question is, after season 3 of Picard, do we even really want one or need one?
Yes, I feel like anybody who has read my reviews for Star Trek Picard on Collider.com will know I loved season 3, and I also
Oh yeah.
loved the way that season 3 ended, particularly with that post-credit scene that we got with Jack and Q, which sets up this whole like world of potential for revisiting both of these characters and this universe. And I think there's still room to play with kind of the world state where it is. I will obviously say that I would have preferred to get something like Star Trek Legacy, and knowing some of the details about what that could be, I would love that. But I'm down for a movie. We were always promised one more movie.
I will say I'm torn on this because I loved season 3 of Picard so much.
Hmm.
Season 1 I watched the entirety of and then hated myself.
Oh no.
Um Season 2 I stopped halfway because I was like, I'm not going to subject myself to this any longer. And then season 3 was probably the best Star Trek anything that we've gotten since the 90s, I would say. Like, it is phenomenal. So damn good. And to me it was such a perfect wrap up of
Hmm.
Jean-Luc Picard's story and just the like all of Next Generation cast story that I don't really feel like we need anymore. I'm not going to say no if it were
Yeah.
to happen, just because I do love those characters. I love the actors. Everything is great, but I feel like from a narrative standpoint, we don't really need it. Star Trek Legacy, on the other hand, whatever that winds up being, if it ever comes to be, which it better.
It
Uh,
better.
that is, I feel like, where we should be looking to go, not necessarily continuing to look back at next gen and those characters. But if it happens, I'm not going to complain.
Yeah, I definitely would not complain. And it would be fun. I mean, it would have to like be for a purpose. Like it shouldn't
Yes,
just be because everybody on, the cast wants to do it. It should fulfill like a reason to exist, essentially.
exactly.
But I still wouldn't say no. I loved seeing the cast back together in season 3 so much. I think you and I have slightly differing opinions on the entirety of Picard as a whole. I really, really loved all 3 seasons, but the third is, I agree, the best Trek that we have gotten since some Voyager episodes that still hold dear to me. But yeah, I'm not going to say no. I'm never going to say no to more Star Trek.
Especially like I just, as I said, lifelong Patrick Stewart fan, so
Hmm.
really just seeing him would be great. Um,
And it
and
seems like,
Jonathan,
based off everything he's been saying lately, it seems like he's not ready to let go of Picard.
yeah,
So to some extent, I'm almost like, well, just let him have it then. Just let him do one more.
for me, like I would love to see this movie, but if Patrick Stewart is going to do anything, I want him to go back to reading sonnets on Twitter. That was my favorite part of the pandemic, was every single day him going through Shakespeare's sonnets. I was like glued to it. I was like, I'm here for this 100%. But you know, yeah, maybe we'll just let him do it and see where it goes. It can't possibly be worse than Nemesis. And maybe that's it. Maybe we should let him do another movie so that his last Star Trek movie isn't Nemesis.
Maybe that's why he's like, I want to do another movie.
Because that one was so bad. It's so bad it almost killed the franchise. Before we move on to the next thing, Maggie, I am curious. What is your opinion on just new Trek in general?
I got back into Trek through Star Trek Prodigy. That was what really got me back. I watched couple episodes of Discovery when it first aired, and it didn't click with me immediately. But Strange New Worlds, Picard, Star Trek Prodigy, those were the shows that like absolutely drew me back in. I'm still not fully on board with Discovery. I haven't had the time to watch all of the seasons because so many have elapsed since that first season for me, or Lower Decks. But I do really love where Star Trek is going, and the stories that they have been telling.
I will say that like modern Star Trek for me is a little hit or miss.
Hmm.
Um, I liked the second half of Discovery season 1. Loved Discovery season 2. The seasons after that I wasn't so hot on. Strange New Worlds is magnificent. I've
Love
loved
it.
it so far. Lower Decks, until Picard season 3, I was like, Lower Decks is the best modern Trek that we've
Oh,
gotten, and I still stand by it is absolutely fantastic. I haven't actually watched any of Prodigy.
it's very good.
um
Especially
yeah.
if you have any love for Star Trek Voyager, which that was my Star Trek. That was the one I grew up watching. My first convention was to see cast members when I was like 4 years old, who were in Voyager. So I definitely have like an attachment to that. And there's Janeway and Chakotay, and those characters are in Prodigy. And I'm still extremely upset that we're not going to get more of those stories, because it was a perfect gateway for young Trekkies and new Trekkies who wanted a really emotionally rich stories that didn't make you feel like you had to know everything to get invested, because the way it was like presented to you was in a very friendly, very welcoming format, and beautiful animation and just rich stories. And I really hope that it finds a new home, or continues to find some way to come back to fans.
I did find myself like, because I didn't watch any of Prodigy, because to be honest, I remembered seeing the announcement that it was coming,
Mhm.
and then I didn't hear anything about it until they were in their second season, and
Oh,
like it was
wow.
already like they were talking about it being over, and I was just like, oh wait, that show happened.
Yes. Well, they pulled it
um
off Paramount, so you will have to purchase it on Amazon or wherever you get your DVDs, so that you can watch it, because it is very much worth your time.
wasn't it just last episode where we
Yes.
were complaining about streaming services and like,
Hmm.
anyways,
Yep.
we aren't going to worry about that. Speaking of streaming services, though, let's go into our final topic of the day, which is talking about the debut episode of Loki season 2. We're going to start this off by being non-spoilery. We're just going to give our general thoughts, kind of just, give us a like real quick sort of, I thought it was good, or I thought it was the worst thing ever. Uh, I don't think that. And then we'll go into spoilers. You'll get a little bit of a warning before we do that. So, Maggie, you watched the episode, I assume.
Yep.
What were your thoughts on that first episode?
I think it was good. It was perhaps not as engaging as I had hoped for, and maybe that's because I watched the first four episodes, kind of in one sitting. But it was really good. It was fun to be back with these characters. Tom Hiddleston is just so enigmatic on screen. It is hard not to just like be instantly captivated by what you're watching. I wish there was more Sylvie. But overall, I really enjoyed what we got, and it has me really excited for people to see where things are headed, because it is a crazy season.
I would say after that first episode, I am definitely intrigued to see more about what is coming on. I'm especially I'm especially wanting to see more of the character of Ouroboros,
Hmm.
and just spending more time with him, not just because I absolutely love the actor, but also just because it's such a fun character. Uh, so yeah, it was a good time. I really enjoyed it. I actually like stayed up late last night to watch it because I got done editing some videos, and then I was like, oh crap, I have to watch I have to watch Loki. Uh, so but I enjoyed it. I think that, in my opinion, Loki season 1 was probably the best MCU
Hmm.
Disney Plus show that we've gotten so far, which have been
Absolutely.
all they've been very hit or miss. I loved WandaVision. I actually really loved Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I know that some people aren't so hot on it.
I
And then
loved it
kind
for
of
Zemo, so
everything after that kind of sort of started trending downward.
yeah.
I liked Miss Marvel for what it was. She-Hulk, moving on. Um, and then Hawkeye and Moon Knight, which honestly I forget happened half the time. Uh, yeah, so now that we've gotten sort of our general thoughts out of the way, do you want to get into some spoilery episode
I guess.
specific things to talk about?
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting that we're getting a little bit more TVA lore, which is exciting to learn more about what the Time Variance Authority is. I'm really curious to see what happens with Kang, and where that storyline is going. I know that hasn't arrived yet. And I think there's a lot of curious aspects being set up in the first episode, that I'm hoping to see kind of play play out. What were your thoughts? I mean, I know you said OB was your favorite character right off the bat, but
He's just okay. So I have a headcanon about OB. Like as soon as he showed up, I was just like, this is 100% just a variant of Data from Goonies. Like that is what I'm going to tell myself. Because they are effectively just the same character, and I mean, obviously they're played by the same actor, but like, they're both tech geniuses, and they both like talk fast, and I'm just like, yeah, they're in my head they're the same character. It's just a variant of him because obviously all the people are variants of somebody. So Goonies is in the MCU is what I'm saying. I like, I love the intrigue that they are building up around Kang.
Mhm.
And sort of the crazy town crier that Loki is playing throughout this episode, where he's
Yes.
just like he's trying so hard to get Mobius to like listen to him, and I do love Owen Wilson as Mobius. I think that he does a fantastic job, and seeing him come back immediately put a smile on my face. Was there an oh wow in this episode? I don't think so.
I don't think so, no.
No. Well, they're building up for it. They're building up your expectations for it. But the whole like time slipping element, I expected, like when they introduced that at the beginning of the episode, I expected that to be a season long issue that Loki
I did
was
as
gonna be
well,
dealing
yes.
with. But then seemingly by the end of the episode, it's resolved.
Yes.
So
That was where I was not entirely certain what we were going to get with pacing, because I also thought that was going to extend further. It seems resolved. So what's the next kind of hurdle that they have to deal with? Because that seemed like a pretty big issue, especially if you're trying to stop terrible things from happening and you just keep jumping through time.
Yeah. Like I expected that to be like, maybe that would be something that they turn into like a tool that he could use, where he could jump around time and use it to like avoid obstacles or like solve problems by like going back and seeing how something, like I expected it to be something that like they would almost turn into a boon for Loki going forward. But then yeah, by the end of the episode it's like resolved, and like, okay, well I guess he's not gonna be time slipping anymore, so like what was even like really the point of that, other than just having our individual episode arc. And I guess it did introduce us to the whole concept of the loom and all that, which
True.
might be a bigger deal going down. We'll just have to see. I mean, obviously you've seen more of the series than me, so
Yep.
you're probably sitting there going like, I know where things are kind of going, and I'm sitting here going, I've seen one episode, so I don't know crap.
Well, that's what's fun, because I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I hadn't thought of that. We'll have to go back and rewatch episodes and see what happens.
But it is enjoyable. I had a good time with the episode.
Exactly.
I am definitely on board to watch more. I am a little curious with Jonathan Majors and that whole situation.
As am I.
What exactly is gonna, like, how Disney's gonna handle that? I have a feeling that with Loki, they're kind of just gonna be like, hey, we filmed this already.
Yep.
But I don't know. Maybe we'll see something happen throughout the series with that, and we'll get our answers kind of regarding that.
I am very curious to see where all of that ends with this season. I will say that much.
Yeah. Here's the thing. I am burned out on multiverses at this point. Like completely and absolutely.
The only multiverse I care about is the Spider-Verse. The only one I want to see.
I am also standing by the idea that the whole time slipping thing is the same as glitching.
Yeah.
Because it serves it kind of like hits the same beat.
Yeah.
So I'm just gonna tell myself until someone says otherwise that glitching.
They just have a different name for it in this universe.
Yeah, is just time slipping. That's what I'm gonna tell myself. So any closing thoughts on Loki season 2 episode 1?
I want more Sylvie in episodes. That's really all I want. She was
the
highlight of season 1 for me, so it was kind of frustrating that she's not really around as much as
I absolutely adore that actress, and I adore that character so much. So there was a distinct lack of Sylvie in episode 1. I kind of expected it.
Yeah.
Like, honestly, I'm surprised that we got any of her at all. before the episode, I was sitting there, I was thinking to myself, I was like, okay, if we get Sylvie, it'll probably just be in the post credits, if there is even one. And that's basically all that we got. We did get a little, like, she was in the elevator when he, like, slipped forward, rocking a new haircut. So at some point she's going to get a haircut throughout the show. And then obviously she was in the post credits, which ended ominously, but, like, I didn't really get why I was supposed to be, like, worried by what she was saying. But maybe that's something that future episodes will show me why I should be worried about that. But yeah, so Loki season 2, episode 1. If you have watched it, I am curious to know what you think about it. Be sure to let us know in the comments, or you can tweet at either of us, or X at us. I don't know what is the term now.
Post at us? I don't know.
Whatever. Just to let us know what you think. Be sure to tune in on Monday for the next episode of Collider Dailies. We're not going to be doing this over the weekend because we like having lives. At least some of us do. I'm just going to, like, watch movies and play video games, so I guess it's not much of a life. But anyways, be sure to tune in on Monday for that. Yeah. And until then, ladies and gents, have a good rest of your weekend.